I've never been in such a completely mindless state. Welcome to the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Stan Lunn, and with me once again is Jordan Ferber.
Hey, everybody. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah? Everything's alrighty up in the world of the North?
Yep, everything is going great here in the Great White North.
Yeah?
Yep.
That's good. So, the day that we're recording this, I just went to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 yesterday.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was the best of the Guardians movies. Like, if I were to rank them, I'd say 3's the best, then number 1, then number 2. You know, it's a very emotional movie, though, so definitely be prepared to ride a roller coaster of emotions.
Well, that's good to know.
Also, the villain is very, very hateable. You know, they did that right, but I really liked it. I do encourage anyone to go see it. You know, Marvel movies usually are always a success, though, for me. You a big Marvel fan, Jordan?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've liked a majority of the Marvel movies.
What do you think's your favorite couple movies?
Probably Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, the Avengers movies, and
That it?
there are a few other ones, but none that come to mind just at the moment.
Oh, in terms of me, I love the Avengers movies, especially Endgame and Infinity War. Love the Doctor Strange movies. Love the Guardians of the Galaxies. The Ant-Man movies are pretty fun. You know, think the next one that'll come out in November will be the Marvels. I'll definitely go to see that.
Well, of course, also can't forget the first Iron Man and the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, that you can't forget them either. I'm really excited for that new animated Spider-Verse that comes out in July, I think. That should be a fun movie.
It looks like it'll be very interesting.
One thing I wanted to talk about today is I recently mostly completed my Playmates Darkwing Duck line of things. Like, I managed to buy a lot with almost every single Playmates figure with all their weapons and accessories. And it got me thinking about, you know, what the holy grails are for me right now for Darkwing. And I'd also like to know what are your Darkwing Duck holy grails, Jordan?
Probably my biggest holy grail will be my in-box copy of the Darkwing Duck NES game.
Yeah. Though
as also the foot tall Playmates figure.
So if you have them, does that count as a holy grail? I mean, maybe. I guess I was thinking more about what are you after that you don't have yet?
Maybe some of the comics.
Yeah. Well, there are quite a few good ones out there, along with a few stinkers. I'd say the most expensive one you'll have to track down will be Disney Afternoon 10, and boy, oh boy, that comic in there is not worth what they charge for it.
Well, hopefully it ends up getting included in one of the collections that's coming out in the not too distant future.
It could. I kind of wish it wouldn't, just because I'd like to see other things I want to read more than that. But again, I also own that stinker of a comic, so. I would say for me right now, the biggest holy grails, obviously the snow globe. That's my number one holy grail that I just have to have at some point. I also would really love to get the Darkwing Duck fruit snacks box at some point because I remember having those as a kid. And I guess the other holy grail for me would be the Darkwing Duck grape jelly bottle.
Oh yeah.
I think those are my holy grails at the moment that I'm desperately searching for. Well, there's one other, but it's a secret between me and Will, because he has them and I don't yet. But once I find them, then we'll reveal that one to the world. Got a couple bits of news to go over real quick. One of them, we kind of mentioned this before in our interview with Aaron Sparrow, but I realized after we hadn't actually officially announced it. The Diamond Select figures, they revealed that the mock-ups of them, now they don't have their joints in them. They will be fully articulated when they come out, but they revealed Darkwing and a variant version for Negaduck. And the sculpts look amazing. They're mostly based on the James Silvani art. Negaduck does come with his chainsaw and with a shotgun or a bazooka and a bomb, multiple hands. Darkwing comes with his gas gun and a gas explosion to come out of it. They look really good, though. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to those figures.
Yeah. Still no word on when they're going to come out, though, how much they'll be, or if they're going to do other figures in the series after, but I hope they will. Another thing that happened recently that kind of flew under the radar, the Disney Channel did one of their Chibi-verse shorts that had pretty much everyone from the Disney television animation in it, including Darkwing Duck. There were also characters from DuckTales, Tailspin, Gargoyles, Bonkers, you know, Phineas and Ferb, Star versus the Forces of Evil, The Owl House, Amphibia, Ghost and Molly McGee. So it's a pretty fun little short. I've seen it. Definitely should check it out if you get a chance. It's only like 5 minutes in length, I think.
It is nice to know that after all these years, the Disney Afternoon is still being represented in official Disney products and other areas.
Yeah. But we have a storybook to review today, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We are reviewing today the Disney book and cassette tape set of Darkwing Duck called High Wave Robbery. Now, this was put out presumably in 91. I didn't see a copyright date in here, but I'm assuming 91. Now, the story was written by Jim Magon. I hope I pronounced that right. He's pretty influential in the Disney afternoon verse, isn't he?
Yeah, he's one of the main architects of the Disney Afternoon.
Fill us in on some of the things he's known for.
Well, for creating Tailspin, being one of the main producers on Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, as well as also being one of the main people who worked on Gummy Bears.
He was the writer of 20 episodes of DuckTales, 4 episodes of Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, 1 episode of Darkwing Duck, Darkly Dawns the Duck Part 1. He wrote the Goofy movie. He's got supervising producer credits for Tailspin. He won an Emmy for Super DuckTales and for Tailspin Plunder and Lightning. He was the story editor on DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Goof Troop, and weirdly enough, Titanic The Legend Goes On, which is a very strange Titanic animated movie that features a rapping dog. Yes, this is real, folks. Yes, it's as bonkers as it sounds.
If you like bad movies, that's one movie you have to track down and watch.
Yeah, but I I'm not going to hold that against Jim. He seems to have made quite a few other really awesome things.
Yeah.
In terms of it was produced by Randy Thornton, who I don't think we looked up. The art direction was by Skip Morgan. You have a bit more information about him, don't you, Jordan?
Yeah, he was a Disney Afternoon character designer.
So he was very familiar with the characters. And the art in the book was done by Geppy Vaccaro and Associates. Now, we couldn't really find any information about that person, but the art is more or less on point, a couple oddities here and there, but it mostly looks good.
It's like what you'd expect from like a storybook.
Now, that being said, this book came with a cassette tape, which has the entire story read by a narrator and actually features voice actors voicing the characters. So we got our, well, I guess we'll get to them in time, but we'll mention the narrator first. The narrator for this was William Woodson, who sadly passed on in 2017. Though he lived to the ripe old age of 99 years old, so I'd say he did pretty good. He was best known as a narrator for a lot of old shows, a lot of live action. There were some animated ones, so I'd say his biggest roles were being the narrator for all the Super Friends cartoons. He also voiced J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and the other Spider-Man cartoon from like the 60s. And something you'll like, Jordan, he was also the narrator for SWAT Cats.
Oh, nice.
So let's get on into doing the story review. So we start in the Mallard household, where Gosalyn is annoying the heck out of Drake. What's she annoying him with?
She's trying to play her clarinet, but she's not playing it very well.
Nope. And Drake is, covering his ears, because the racket's making it where he can't hear the police radio. And this is where I will mention Jim Cummings voices Darkwing on the cassette tape version, and Christine Cavanaugh is doing Gosalyn on it. So if you're craving more bits of Jim as Darkwing, or Christine as Gosalyn, or Terry McGovern as Launchpad, they're all in this. So there is a crime over the radio. What is it?
It seems that there was a massive art theft at the Rockefeller Mansion.
Yep. So Drake turns to leave, and Gosalyn, wants to be taken on the, adventure. She's like, "You never take me along on your big cases." And Drake says, "And for good reason. I, Darkwing Duck, am trained for this hazardous superhero stuff. You're not." So this is kind of weird. They say he went through a secret door. It's like, why didn't he use the spinning chairs?
Yeah, this must have been written pretty early on, before a lot of the fine details have been hammered out, I would imagine.
Probably. So then we cut to the middle of the city. Drake and, or well, I should say Darkwing and Launchpad are on the rat catcher, zooming in between trucks. And LP, remarks that Gosalyn looked pretty sad back there. To which, Darkwing replies, "My lifestyle's too dangerous for little girls." I love Launchpad's line here, "and too dangerous for the big boys, too."
Yeah, that is
So
that is a very Launchpad thing to reply.
Oh, yeah. So where do we end up?
So now we're at the Rockefeller Mansion. And when Darkwing and Launchpad show up, they find 3 people sitting in a corner, completely dazed, while all the art has been stolen.
Yep. and all of the windows are shattered, and the lady's glasses. And the lady is Joan D. Rockefeller. That name sounds a bit familiar, and that would be because most of us Duck fans are familiar with John D. Rockefeller from DuckTales. But both names are an homage to John D. Uh, Rockefeller. Almost said Rockefeller again. It's like, no, no. So, that's a famous person from history. I think he was like a tycoon, businessman, billionaire.
Yeah, he was a very famous businessman.
But yeah, so they're sprawled on the floor, with vacant expressions and their hair's all standing on end. And Launchpad's like, boy, that's how I feel when I stay up all night playing video games. But Darkwing notices that every piece of glass in the room's been shattered, but there's no sign of an explosion or even a struggle. So this is kind of gross. He holds a sack under Miss Rockefeller's nose, and she comes to. She asks if it's some sort of special chemical formula. What is this disgusting thing, Jordan?
It's egg salad and blue cheese because it's Darkwing's
Darkwing's
lunch.
lunch. Yeah.
Do you want to say
Come
who
on,
Miss Rockefeller is voiced by?
Yes, I do. Miss Rockefeller is voiced by Linda Gray. Now, this is not the only person Linda Gray voices in this, but I think we'll get into what she's famous for first. So, she's most famously known for voicing Tila, Queen Marlena, Sorceress, and Evil Lyn in the He-Man properties. She also is fairly famous for voicing Aunt May in the '94 animated Spider-Man series, but she's also got some Disney Afternoon credits to her name. She was Arco Ducky or Araco Ducky in DuckTales, as long as the voice of the Queen of England in DuckTales. She voiced Muffy Vanderstone in Tailspin, and she voiced two characters in Darkwing Duck. In the episode Toys R Us, she voiced Principal Farnsworth and a character called Henry's mom. She also is credited as a voice on Quivering Quack, but it doesn't tell us what character. Sadly, Linda Gray passed on in 1995, heart failure and brain cancer complications. So unfortunately, she is no longer with us. But she left behind a lot of talented roles that she was in. So back to the story. She realizes that that she apparently had been looking at her Musalangelo. I guess they don't have Michelangelo in that world. Though all I can picture with the name Musalangelo is a moose with an orange bandana wielding a pair of nunchucks. How about you? But she realizes she's been robbed. But there is a note left behind, isn't there?
Yeah. It says, since you had no chance of stopping us, here's our next crime. Look for us tonight at the Watson Theater premiere.
And Darkwing crumples the paper and says, no chance of stopping them indeed. Come on, Launchpad. Let's get dangerous. So we end up at the theater. Darkwing is watching all the people show up. Apparently, they're going to something called Gone with the Mind, which is a reference to Gone with the Wind. And Launchpad remarks, too bad you wouldn't let Gosalyn come, DW. She loves movie stars. So they enter the theater and they're hiding in a box, like one of them theater boxes. And they see a couple of strange ushers come in.
And then Launchpad gets excited because he thinks it's a snack bar.
Yep. Though Darkwing tells him to keep his tongue in his mouth and his eyes peeled because they're on business. But those ushers, they're not ushers, are they?
Nope. There are villain and her two henchmen.
Yep. So the villain's called Frequencia. Now, as stated before, she is also voiced by Linda Gray. Or Linda Gary, I mean. Why did I say Gray? But yeah, she announces, "Attention moviegoers, I am Frequencia and this is a stick-up." And her henchmen don earmuffs,
Do you
in
want to
preparation.
describe her costume?
So she's wearing a green jumpsuit with a yellow lightning bolt on it, with a green cape and a red pair of boots with yellow highlights. And she also has like purple hair. And her henchmen have that same lightning bolt design. One of them's wearing a blue shirt with a red lightning bolt design. The other one's wearing a yellow shirt with a red lightning bolt design.
Her costume is very reminiscent of Megavolt, just with all the extra stuff removed.
Yeah.
And with the added cape.
Also, one of those henchmen kind of looks like an evil Herb Muddlefoot. So Darkwing, though, he leaps into action. "Desist, evildoers! I am the terror that flaps in the night, the winged scourge that pecks at your nightmares." They overuse that way too often.
Yeah, that showed up in quite a few things.
Yeah.
Like from the NES game, it's in that, and also in a bunch of other Darkwing merchandise and stuff as well.
Yeah. So Darkwing jumps down from the balcony, but as he's going on the attack, Frequencia pushes a button on the fake food table, which fills the theater with a mind-scrambling screech. Everyone's hair goes on end and their faces go blank, which includes Darkwing, who slips from the rope and falls through the movie screen. So, what does Frequencia do next?
And with Darkwing incapacitated, now she's free to. Her and her henchmen are free to rob everyone of their valuables.
Yep. And, she even gloats about, "They can't even catch me when I warn them, the fools." So hours later, everybody starts to wake up, and Launchpad finds Darkwing and snaps him out of it. And Darkwing clutches his aching head and goes, "Yow! I've never been in such a completely mindless state." To which Launchpad replies, "You get used to it." But we got another note, don't we?
Yep.
So what's this note say?
The crooks are going to attack the city gold reserve tonight.
But Darkwing doesn't know how to stop them. We should mention we're back at Drake's house. Yeah. Gosalyn offers to help, but Darkwing says, "Well, unless you can help me remember what they look like or what their weapon is, I don't see what you could do." But Gosalyn, doesn't let that get her too down. At least, she can still play music for Drake tonight. But Darkwing, says that can't really be happening, but he says it in a weird way. He calls Gosalyn Gazi, which I don't recall him ever referring to her as Gazi. It's always Gosalyn or Gaz.
Yeah, this must have been one of those things where it was written very early on before they had settled on it.
But yeah, so he says that he can't go because he's got to devote every waking moment to the case.
We do get a very nice moment here between Drake and Gosalyn.
Yep. She starts to cry, and she's like, "But you promised! Aren't I even worth an hour of your valuable time?" And Drake reaches out and, strokes her head and says, "You're right. I'll be there." And all I can hear in my head when that happens is like the sad music from Life, the Negaverse, and everything playing.
Yeah.
So we skip ahead to the recital, and Drake and LP are at the school, but Drake, is wanting to get out of there because, he wants to get to the gold reserve. Of course, Launchpad's like, relax, DW. School concerts are fun. Well, I even played a string instrument as a kid. And Drake's like, you did? Yeah, a yo-yo. Typical Launchpad.
Yeah, that's a very Launchpad response.
But so the concert starts, the kids make their way through the musical arrangement. Finally, we get to Gosalyn's solo, which she puts the clarinet to her mouth, and a very loud off-key squawk fills the air. But LP, he inspires Drake a little bit here, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's like, golly, W, this tune is so good it makes my hair stand on end, which then gives Darkwing an idea.
Yep, it all clicks to him how Frequencia has been doing what she's been doing. So once Gosalyn takes her bow, Drake rushes forward and yanks her off the stage, says he's solved the case, but he's going to need her and her clarinet to catch the crooks. And we get Gosalyn saying, me? On a case? Hot dog! Again, don't really recall Gosalyn using that, but it's not too out of the realm of what she might say. So we're at the gold reserve now. And they're Darkwing and LP are wearing earmuffs. And Gosalyn's like, how are earmuffs and a clarinet gonna stop the crooks? And Darkwing's like, what did you say? Launchpad's like, what? What? The classic, I can't hear you because I've got things covered. At least I don't have a fish in their ear. But Frequencia and her minions show up again, and they now have a new accessory to their costumes, don't they?
The masks?
Yeah, because they weren't wearing the masks before. Frequencia's mask is red, and the two henchmen's are green. But yep, they show up with their sound machine, and she announces again that it's a stick-up, but Darkwing beats her to the punch. He holds a microphone up to Gosalyn and shouts, play your solo. And before Frequencia and her henchmen can put on their own earmuffs, Gosalyn plays an ear-piercing squonk, which is amplified through the loudspeakers, and Frequencia's machine explodes, her hair stands on end, and she and her goons collapse. So, what happens next?
Now that they're back home, Darkwing drops down happily to his chair. Case closed. I couldn't have done it without you, Gosalyn. When Launchpad's hair still on end during your solo, I knew Frequencia must be using some kind of amplified sound to knock everyone out.
What?
You can take those earmuffs off now, Launchpad.
Yeah, Launchpad's still got the earmuffs on. So Gosalyn, of course, doesn't take this news very happily. What you're really saying is I play the clarinet terribly. And she tosses the instrument aside. We get another sweet moment between Darkwing and Gosalyn where Darkwing hugs her warmly and says, maybe it's just not your instrument, kiddo. And Gosalyn says, you're right. From now on, I'm going to play the tuba. And how do we end this?
She blows into the large horn. As she blew a loud blort, Darkwing's hair stood on end and he passed out.
Yep. Now, this is where the book ends. The cassette tape, though, has something pretty special on it after that, doesn't it, Jordan?
Yeah, you get one last little surprise, and that's the Darkwing Duck theme song.
The whole song without the sound effects in it. Which I think this is the only place I've ever heard that. Have you ever heard the Darkwing song played anywhere else without the sound effects from the intro?
Nope.
The book also has one other interesting thing about it, though unfortunately my copy of it didn't have them in it. But there are 4 trading cards in the book. A card for Gosalyn, one for Darkwing, one for Steelbeak, who wasn't even in this issue, and one for Honker, who wasn't in this issue. Now, each one lists a bunch of things about the characters and has like a fake autograph of them. There are some weird things in there. Like Gosalyn says her favorite color is AstroTurf green. Her favorite song supposedly is Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and her favorite food is ballpark hot dogs. For some reason, they say Darkwing's favorite color is midnight black. It's like, obviously his favorite color would be purple or pink.
And his favorite food is spaghetti and mystery meat.
Yeah. Steelbeak, they list nuts and bolts as his favorite food. And Honker, they say he's too busy thinking to eat food. But overall, it's a pretty fun little story, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a very fun, entertaining read.
Yep, and if you don't have the book to read it, you can actually find the cassette tape on YouTube to listen to.
I would say that the cassette, listening to it is pretty much like a must.
Yeah, like the only bit of gripe I have with the cassette tape is that they didn't use some of the music from the Darkwing Duck show during the story. Because I think they could have had some pretty good usage of some of the themes.
But like hearing the original voices definitely elevates the book.
Yeah. Obviously, Jim, Christine, and Terry, all sound, perfect. Nothing sounds too out of character for them. And there's none of that whole being mean to Launchpad thing that you find a lot in early Darkwing stories.
Yeah.
I think Linda Gary did a wonderful job as Frequencia. The narrator is on point, and I can see why he did so much narration for things. He's got such a soothing voice. Like you could almost listen to him read anything, and I think it'd be entertaining.
Yeah, he definitely has that narrator sounding voice. So it makes perfect sense that he did a lot of narration during his time.
The plot's a little bare bones, but it's not too bad. I like the fact that Gosalyn, ends up being the key to stopping Frequencia. Overall, I'd give this a solid 3.5 out of 5. How about you, Jordan?
I say if you're just reading the book just by itself, I give it a 3.5. But if you have the cassette to listen to, I give it a 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also actually have a new villain to rate this time, so I'll let you start. What would you rate Frequencia and why?
I'd give a Frequencia a 3.5. A 3.5. I'd say that while her costume is a little bit kind of generic, she does have an interesting thing going on with the using sound frequency. Even though I would say probably if she was in the actual show, she probably would have been a one-off villain and probably wouldn't have come back, since her whole thing is tied to her gimmick, which is using sound. And there's only so many things you can do with using sound to commit crimes. But for a one-off, I'd say it's a solid 3.5.
All right. I'm actually going to give her a bit lower of a score than you are. As you said, the costume leaves a little bit to be desired. Like, I think they could have done a little more with that. I also feel that they could have had her do a little bit more. It's like she shows up, says stick 'em up, uses her machine, robs people. Though the whole leaving the note shtick was pretty cool, and the fact that she's telling them the crime she's going to commit because she believes she can't be stopped. So I'm going to go a 3 with her.
I think it is a little bit held back because of the format of being a storybook. If this was a comic, then they would have had time to flesh out more. But for a limited page storybook, But for a limited page storybook, I think it does a pretty good job.
Yeah, I do as well. But that is our review of High Wave Robbery. In terms of things, I thought it was pretty good. So anyway, we are the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. You can find us on all major podcast apps and YouTube. Do you have any shout outs to give today, Jordan, or do you want to plug anything?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out. I'll give a shout out to Lyle Convoy Reviews, since he is a fairly big Darkwing Duck fan.
All
and
right.
for plugs, I'll plug my YouTube channel, which is Toon Logic Studios, where I do AMVs and shorts, and I also do reviews sometimes.
Yeah, you did a Darkwing Duck AMV earlier today, if I'm not mistaken, using music from My Dad's a Rock Star.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty good. And as you said, shout out to Lio. I actually messaged him commented something to him recently. So I was going down the rabbit hole of all the old St. Canard Files episodes. I actually came across a post where he had offered folks some Molly action figure accessories, I think a Don Carnage sword. So I asked him if the offer is still available. He said if he finds them, they're mine, or at least the Molly ones. I didn't actually ask for the Don Carnage one because I don't have the Don Carnage figure. Anyway, in terms of my shout outs, I actually want to give a shout out to Michelle Pfaff because she actually helped me out with giving me scans of the back of the trading cards because I couldn't find any, online, and I knew from memory that there was, text on the back. So to be thorough, I had to see what they looked like. So thank you, Michelle, for your help. And I guess I'll plug my two YouTube channels again, DMC Jedi Man and DMC Jedi Man Gaming. Recently, I've put together some pretty cool videos on those, so definitely check them out if you get a chance. But I think that's going to do it for today. What do you think, Jordan?
Yep. I think that'll do for today.
Well, until next time, stay dangerous, and please keep your egg salad and blue cheese lunch as far away from me as possible. Good night, everybody.
Good night.